In June of 2022, I saw Morgan Donner's Shenanigan Pants video. She was inspired by seeing Bernadette Banner making split pants, split skirt, which are essentially a skirt with a panel in the front. Who was also inspired by Rachel Maxey, who had been making secret pants. And it was just a circle of friends being inspired by each other to make pants with really wide legs. I was inspired by Morgan Donner's Shenanigan Pants. And like I said, in June of 2022, I made these. They are overalls or pants suspenders. I actually made a TikTok of me making these. So these pants have been in my closet since 2022, and I have only worn them twice. Once when I made them and in the TikTok, and then more recently in the very first outfit video that I made. And in me wearing them, I was reminded why I don't wear them. The issue is they don't fit me. They're a little big in the waist, and because of that, I have to keep the suspenders as short as possible to ensure that it doesn't fall lower than a point that I'm comfortable with. But because I've never made pants before, I guess I made the crotch seam, butt seam too high. So when I have them sitting at my waist, which is where I find the most comfortable, if I bend over, I get a wedgie. That is not ideal for a pair of pants. The construction of them, I think I did a pretty good job. You know, I've been sewing for a few years, but it's just, I don't think they look great on me. Not only the fit issue, but just in general, I don't think they look great on me. And as I'm sure you saw from the title, I'm going to be taking these apart. When I made these pants, I didn't really know what I was doing. The pattern was made with a combination of the skirt pattern that I go back to pretty regularly, as well as just kind of getting the, crotch seams and all that kind of stuff figured out from, I believe it was a pair of jeans. It was just kind of hobbled together to make something that does fit in theory, but it's not great. When I decided that I didn't want to keep these as pants anymore, I realized that the fabric was going to go towards something that I had been wanting to make for a little while, but didn't have all of the resources that I needed to make it. You're probably wondering, what am I going to make with these? I am going to make another pair of stays. Back in August, when I made my first pair, in that video, I talked about the two different fabrics that I was using, a green cotton duck cloth and a brown cotton duck cloth, or cotton canvas, duck cloth. There's different ways to call basically the same thing. It's a heavier weight cotton that is woven one over the other in both directions. I had lamented in that video that I didn't have as much of the brown as I did as the green, because the brown was constructed a little bit differently than the green. The green was very straightforward, one over the other, but for some reason the brown looked like it had more going on. Maybe it's just an illusion of the way that particular cotton was woven. Maybe it actually is woven slightly differently. Back to the pants. I'm going to be taking the pants completely apart. Of the things that I do plan on keeping, I do plan on keeping that front flap. I really like the way it looks. I like the fabric on the inside, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it just yet, but I do want to keep that for now. The other thing I'm going to keep are the straps, as well as all of the hardware and buttons. I actually made these pants with a button fly because I've never sewn a zipper in before, and I wasn't starting then, and I'm definitely not starting now, which honestly is a good thing. That just means I have more of these buttons, and I already have another project in mind for them. Immediately after I made that first pair of stays, I had made adjustments to the pattern based on the things that I wanted to fix. The tabs on the top for the straps I have completely eliminated. I have also raised the front and the back to be a little bit higher, and I made the underarm curve wider so that it isn't pressing up against the back of my arm like the mock-up was. Luckily, it wasn't boned at the time, so it just folded over, but if it had been boned, it would have been digging into my arm. When I was making this first pair of stays, I knew that I wanted them to be front laced because it made it easier for me to lace myself in. I wasn't going to rely on anybody to lace me up, and I didn't want to have to put it on backwards, lace it partially, turn it around, and lace it up all the way. So in theory, it worked great, but I still had issues because I really couldn't see what I was doing, especially when I was starting at the bottom. I couldn't see where I was putting the laces, and looking at myself in the mirror means I would be doing it reversed, and that would make it even harder. So for the next one, that would be more of a final version of the stays, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to make them a little bit better. I really like being able to keep the laces in the back in, not having to take them out every time in order to take the corset or stays off. But in order to do that, I need to have some kind of front closure to make it easier for me to get in and out. Yes, I could just make it completely flat in the front and lace up the back, leaving the laces in and then it's kind of worming my way into it, but that's more struggle than I feel like dealing with. At first, I was just going to have laces both in the front and the back. I really didn't want to have to put in that many grommets, so I realized that I already own a corset. Back when I was 18, my dad got me a corset for my birthday from the Renaissance Fair. When I look at it, it looks like it's half corset, half stays because of the way the front piece looks. It's very flat. But I classify it, and I think so does the maker, as a corset because of the fact that it goes past the waist down to the hips. It doesn't fit me anymore. Like I said, I was 18 when I bought it, and I'm 35 now. So it's never going to fit me again. One of the things that this corset had was a separating busk. If you've ever seen a corset that has something down the front that isn't grommets and laces, that's probably what you've been seeing. These little posts and little tabs that lock together that are in the front of a corset or a pair of stays. Because the corset is a corset and goes from basically around the underarm height down to the hip, I was worried that the separating bust would be too big. Luckily for me, I had already made the front of the stays long, much longer, I think, than some actually go. And with the added height to the top, like I had already added, it was a perfect fit.
Around the outside, because what that'll let me do is open it up so that I can just sew the pom-pom balls with my hand, so that then when all the pom-pom balls are on it, I can use it fluffy. The other thing I did, which is not standard pom-pom line stuff by sewing around the edges of it, stretch velvet is so slippery that even if I try to do that, it's just the stretch velvet with white spandex on the back, they're bagged out, and then they are zigzag stitched to these that also cinches so that it fits correctly, it's not going to move, and it is adjustable for if my body changes. Next time I try this, I'll try to find a way to make it a little cleaner, but I didn't super plan to do it like this. I had no idea how I was going to close the movie, but I like to get stretch balance to look good for obvious reasons. Myself a guide for the back, and I have all these little pieces cut out. What I have ready is a bunch of little already scallops. But now that it's done, I have one other thing I have been avoiding. This is not a tutorial on gloves. This is you watching.
Okay, I got all of my pieces separated. I gave up and decided not to take the plackets for the buttons off. I've got waistbands, a bunch of pockets. I think that's all of them. I don't know what I want to do with. I've got my 2 straps that I want to keep, and then all of my iron-on patches, except for like one, I think that's stuck on the front flap and the front flap. All right, I got all of the threads out and my fabric ironed. I am not going to be using the green fabric at all for this, so I'll put that away. And I'm not sure if I actually have enough of brown fabric, but I found some leftover from when I made the pants initially. I thought I didn't have any, but I had moved it into a bin in the basement and I had forgotten. But hopefully I don't have to use that because I would like to, use this fabric. But I have to cut out 4 of each piece for both the outside fabric and the lining. I also wasn't sure if I wanted to use the flower print or have the outside be just solid brown. I think I'm just going to do solid brown because I want more staple pieces in my wardrobe, things that are solid colors, neutral colors, so that they can go with more things. And having this bold sunflower gold print, while is kind of a neutral in itself, I just want a solid brown pair of stays. I have other fabrics if I ever want to make another one that will be more of a bold color. So all I have to do now is start cutting out the pieces. Alright, so everything is cut out. I didn't have enough of the original panels from the pants, so I had to cut out some of them from the leftover of this fabric. But now I'm going to sew them up. I'm going to give them a little bit more seam allowance than I did last time. I found that the first pair of stays, while it is tight and it does support, it could probably go a little tighter. Like you saw in the clip of me putting it on, I can lace it up to the point where the two sides are touching. And you really don't want that if you want really good support. You want there to be a little bit of a gap. I just didn't want to go too big, or I should say too small, on that first one when I hadn't made a pair of stays before. But now that I know that I could go just a little bit bigger, I'm gonna make the seam allowance just a little bit bigger. Okay, I got everything sewed together, as well as the back seam. This is where the grommets are going to go. What I need to do now is sew up the front seams. The issue is, it's not really an issue, but the thing that I need to do that's different from last time I just did a straight seam, same way as all of these, so it would be folded in, and I'm good. But because of the separating busk, I have to make room for the tabs to poke out of the seam. So I have to pick a side. I should also pick which side's my front and which side's my back. I need to pick one just to sew up the front like normal, because the little bars don't need any space in that front seam. The posts are closer to one side than the other. I think it's supposed to be this way, not this way, because that means they're too far away from the edge. And yeah, because now these are overlapping. One side with the posts just needs the straight seam, and then I will be putting holes in the front so that the little posts can come through. I can mark those after I've sewed the front seam. But for the front seam that the tabs are going to come through, I need to leave space between the stitches so that it can just slip right in. I'm going to try my best to explain this. I'm not an expert. I am a novice when it comes to making structured undergarments. But I learned this from Sarah Spaceman's video on making a corset with a separating busk. And it's only because I have one that I'm doing this. Otherwise, I would have probably done laces like I've said. Like I've said in the beginning of the video, I was almost going to do laces. If you want to learn how to sew a structured undergarment with a separating busk, I will link Sarah's video below. All right. I don't know how well you can see that. But yeah, you sew where the lines are, not the spaces, so that's where the tab side of the busk can fit through. Let's do that. Y'all, I'm an idiot. I just went, oh, let me pin it real quick. It's on the wrong side. Sorry, it's on the wrong side. I went to, oh, let me pin it real quick, only to realize I drew the lines on the wrong side. They need to be on the side with the flower print, because the solid side is the outside. I can't sew the lines if I can't see them. Such an idiot.
And you know, while we're talking about the realities of me doing all this in a room that's 7.5 by 11 feet, let's go to another level and let's get rid of the stuff that's stupid real quick. I genuinely store all of my stuff that has writing on top of each other. If you have something that is stored in the middle or the bottom of a massive stack, for me, that's something that I've never really put away. Because of too much work to unstack things and stack them back up again. So I have things that are stacked,
Got the busks in, I had to pull out the side with the tabs and put it back in because I had put it in upside down. And it's important that you put it in so that the tab is on top of the boning part, because otherwise it doesn't lay flat, because it's basically it's raised ever so slightly higher than the white boning. In my case, the silver tab is raised ever so slightly higher than the white boning, and that allows it to sit on top of the post side and its white boning. So I got that in, I fixed it. You saw me doing some hand sewing to bring in my spacing a little tighter. That didn't cause any issues with pulling out the boning, or pulling out the busk. It didn't cause any issues for pulling out this busk. I think it's because it was a mix of a dark pen, it's blue, on a dark fabric with a pattern. Since I had to draw it on this side, it made it harder for me to see my lines. I couldn't see where I was supposed to start and stop. I think I was stopping correctly. Like, I was stopping in the right spot every time, but when I started on the next section, I couldn't see where I was supposed to start. So there's a couple of spots here that are kind of hard to see. I don't really care. The thread is a pretty close match to this fabric, which is funny because the more I look at it non-print side, it looks red. And I think it looks red on camera as well. But I swear it's like just a really warm brown, because when it's this side, it looks brown. I don't know. Anyway, next step is to draw on the boning lines, the channels. But first, I pulled off the bottom binding of my other pair because, one, I realized that was all of the white binding that I had, and I don't know where to get more of that kind of binding. So I pulled it off so I can save it for something else, since this is, not great anyway. But also because I want to take some of the boning. So, like, some of the boning will fit. Like, I think under the arm section will fit. All of these pieces here will mostly fit. Some of these, this section is longer now, so some of these won't fit, but there is probably some of these that will in certain areas. Like these first two bones might actually fit like more over here now. But yeah, I knew I wasn't going to keep this because it's a mock-up. It was never going to be something that I would wear ever again, or ever. I never really wore it ever because the shape isn't quite what I want. The back tabs, they're too far in, so they, butt up against my arm and all that kind of stuff. Also, I want to take the lacing strips and keep them for if I ever make mock-ups again, I don't have to redo this part, which is a smart thing to do if you find yourself making corsets or stays a lot. You can either cannibalize an old corset that you bought and take the eyelets, the grommets out and reuse them, or you can do like what I'm doing, is take out this section from one that you've made, but it was a mock-up itself, so now these will become official mock-up grommet panels that I can quickly sew into anything that I'm making, before I do this. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that makes any sense. If you've ever seen Minji's videos, she does it. I know Sarah talks about doing it, Sarah Spaceman. Minji Lee is another person who does a lot of historical stuff, makes a lot of corsets and stays. So she's a good person to watch if you want to learn how to do this better than I could ever teach you, because I'm not a teacher. All right, let's draw on some boning channels.
I slap you in the face with the inspiration. And those are important. It does talking to the top. We are there by I want to know that she's but in a way that makes it very screams and heat and fire. So gorgeous. So here is a big old red field of flowers. As you can see, just walks
Okay, I got all of the boning channels sewn in. When I was setting up my machine for this project, I just grabbed the only bobbin of brown thread that I had. And it's actually a darker thread than the top thread. And I realized as I was working, I'm like, oh, that might actually look nice. Not to mention, I draw my lines on the back because the heat erase pen that I use, the way it's supposed to work is that the ink goes white because you're supposed to be using it on paper. So it leaves this kind of, I don't know if you can see this like white residue. And sure, you can't see it for the most part because the stitches are over it, but I just didn't want it on the outside. So I was going to be sewing it with the bottom, the front being on the bottom, but I like the subtle difference of a slightly darker brown thread on top of this warm reddish brown. The next step that I have to do is probably grommets before I put the bones in. But my issue is that the grommets that I have little cuts in them so that when you set them, the cuts get forced apart and it grips. That causes the back of the grommets to be really sharp. I don't know how well you'd be able to see it. You see how it's like separates open? And this is real grabby. It tears up your laces. I had tried on this to see if I could file it, and it actually scratches the gold finish off, and the filing didn't do anything. It is like a barely perceptible difference between the filed and unfiled side. So I had bought a different kind of grommet that I thought would work with my grommet setter. And they're different in that there's no cuts on one side. So on the other kind, they have cuts on both sides. This one has none. And then the other side is a flat washer. But I tried it with my grommet setter and it doesn't work. This grommet setter apparently only good for the kind where they have the little cuts so that they split open. I'll try again just to be sure, because you really need it to be smooth if you're going to be repeatedly tying it by yourself and leaving them in, like just in general, because it really tears up the laces. I got away with it on one of my first bodices I ever made for myself using that Renaissance costume pattern, because in the pattern it tells you to braid 3 ribbons together, and I really tightly braided those ribbons. It didn't tear it up as much. It still would catch and you could see it because it was one of those like silk ribbons. But I'll try again just to be sure, because I'd like it to have metal grommets. But if I can't, I don't want to use the grommets, the other ones, the ones with the cuts, because it's just going to be too rough. And I might have to hand embroider the eyelets. I really don't want to do. But let's give it a try one more time. Like I said, I've tried twice now with no success. And it's just, it feels like the setter is just not the right shape. I thought because they're essentially the same, let me get the other ones out. These are silver, but it's the same style as the ones that I used. Like, they're almost identical. This is the kind that I used to use and used on my other pair of stays. And you can see that they're very similar in size. Can you see that? Very similar in size. So I thought it would surely work. Yeah, so for example, if I was doing the silver, which is the one with the little cuts, would have, you see that? You would have the wider side set into this side, take the smaller side, and of course the fabric would be in the middle. You set it in, and you clamp down and squeeze. And That's what it would look like. It's a little off center since there is no fabric in the middle. You can see all those teeth, nice and flat. This actually is very smooth because there's no fabric in the middle. But because there's fabric in the middle, it's bulkier, so you can't actually get it this close together, which is unfortunate because it would work. So take the gold, put it in, place this on top, I guess. Or would you flip it? I think you would flip it over to get it to work. You clamp and you squeeze. Yeah, that's all I can get it to do. It barely bends over, and it would be very loose. How much space there is. I feel like with the correct tool, it would be much tighter, but I can't afford it right now. There's like those big grommet presses, which do all the hard work for you, which I would love to have, but those are like $200. And then there's the smaller ones that you smash with a hammer, and I just don't feel like dealing with that. So, hand embroidered eyelets it is. Why am I putting this away? Well, I don't know if I want to cut the holes with the grommet setter or try and make holes with my awl, but I realized that when I made the holes for this side of the busk, I did it with how they told me to, use an awl to make the holes. It was snapping the fibers, the threads of the fabric. It was supposed to just, separate the weave open so you could fit it through, but instead it was causing them to snap. So I actually put a little bit, I don't know if you can see that, put a little fray check around all of them just to ensure they don't start fraying. It did color my fabric a little bit, but I'd rather it have that than it fray apart while wearing it. Alright, I got the eyelets done. It was definitely a learning curve. I started on this one. Pretty good, but as you can see, I was trying to figure out how to not have to cut it every time. So the thread runs under here, and then I thought maybe it'll be easier on top, but it wasn't. So then I did it underneath, and then it was just a learning curve. Using the awl definitely was not the play, because it left my holes really jagged and weird shapes. So as much as I was pulling to get them to be as open as possible, it left them being really weird shapes. That's the first side I did. And then the second side, I definitely was getting the hang of it, getting it to look nicer. But again, those holes being basically torn in from the awl because it wasn't separating the threads like it's supposed to. It was literally snapping and tearing. So I tried my best to cover them up, all the raw edges. I might put fray check on it just in case, but I don't think I need it because they are pretty good covered. Just there's a couple spots where they're not, but it's so tight. And obviously it's not flat because of it. But yeah, that's the eyelets. All right, next step is the boning. I have harvested all the boning from the first pair of stays. And I know not all of them are going to fit because I changed the pattern slightly, but certain ones will. I just have to figure out which ones will fit. I might end up using quite a few of them, but just have to figure it out as I go. I'm really hoping I don't have to cut too many new ones, just because I know I remember how much of a pain it was last time. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna start working on this. So wanted to mention, I'm still not sure if I want to skip every boning channel or not. It really depends on if it works out to where the bones end up in the places where I want them. Like this is already not working because I want a bone here, but this is an even number, I guess. I don't know. I might just do a bone for every channel even though I really don't want to. But because I have so many already made up, it will be a lot easier. If anything, there will be some of these are at an angle because if they were in places like this, and to make them fit in other places, I'll probably just remove the angle. But anyway, yeah, so because it's not going to work where I have bones where I want them, because like I would want one here and here, but then do I do that and then do like double bone up here? It's just going to be a lot of trial and error as well as seeing what fits where, so that I don't want them too close to the edge like last time, because that really caused an issue trying to sew the binding on. That's a whole other thing, but we'll get to that later.
60-year-old impersonating a millennial Dan.
Who, big? That's really funny. It's just too much punctuation. I appreciate that. Wow, fantastic. I think people are starting to see through my clever go-to. I'm not gonna say I'm proud of it, but I got it quickly. There's something to be said.
I wish I could spin guitars.
Ta-da! The stays are finished, and I am so happy with how they turned out. The black binding makes it look kind of rust color. I swear it was brown when I picked it out in the store. I don't know if it's the lighting in my room or what, but it makes it look kind of a reddish, brownish, orange rust color. But that's fine. I am really happy with how it turned out. The lacing in the back, I cannot see what it looks like, but I saw a video from Lizard Lee, I believe it was, talking about how to self-lace in. I already knew the bunny ear method, which is, let me untie this real quick. The bunny ear method. The two eyelets in the center, you have them go down instead of across, so they're on the outside, and you can pull on these to tighten. This is for stays, this is for corsets. You can do this with an overbust corset, an underbust corset, a pair of stays. You can do this method with any of the types of boned undergarments like I'm wearing. And then, so you don't have to try and tie the bow in the back, so it might end up loosening on you if you do, because you're fiddling with something you can't see. What I do, and I saw, I think maybe Lady Rebecca cosplays, is that her YouTube channel? Lady Rebecca? I think that's who that is. And I think this is who I saw do this. Or maybe it was Nicole Rudolph or Abby Cox or any of those people who do historical costuming. I don't remember who I saw this from, but you have them in your hands, you've tightened, and you want to crisscross. You want to pull from the opposite direction, not have the laces on the right side in your right hand, the laces from the left side in your left hand. So you're pulling across from each other. So once you've got them nice and tight, you bring them to the front and you bring them down to your point. This only works with corsets or stays that have this kind of busk at the front. As far as I understand it, it only works if you have a separating busk in the front, and it has to have this, from what I understand, I could be wrong, this thing in the front for you to hook onto. This has no support. Like, this doesn't do anything for me for support. It actually bows out slightly because of my stomach, which is fine. But you take your two ends and you bring them down, and you tie once over itself, and I wedge it under the first tab of the busk. And then I just tie a bow. And as you saw with the first outfit, this all went under the skirt so you don't see it. With stays, you wouldn't wear them on the outside anyway. Like any kind of boned undergarment, you would never wear it on the outside. It was all supposed to be on the inside, but in the modern era, we like to wear them on the outside. I just picked two outfits from my closet because I didn't know what would pair well with it. This dress is casual J fashion one piece. Not really something I would wear with stays or a corset, but it's brown and I thought it would look good. It's a really dark brown. And the other one was my pirate shirt and one of my regular A-line skirts. Probably looked better with that. The skirt over the stays look, I think, looks better with corsets because you naturally have the corset forming that hourglass shape, so it sits right at the waist and it can't fall down easily. I actually was adjusting the stays while with the skirt on, and it pulled the stays up higher than where the waistband was. It's been a very long time since I've worn something like this, so I'm getting used to breathing in it again. I sang in school for many years, so I'm very used to breathing from my diaphragm. And you can't really do that in a boned undergarment because of the fact that it is, in fact, pressing on the lungs and rib cage and stomach area. And the diaphragm is right above your stomach, under your lungs, I think. So it is a little bit harder to breathe when I'm so used to breathing a certain way. I'm not short of breath at all. I may be a little short of breath just because I've been changing outfits and I'm talking so much. It's also forcing me to stand a little bit straighter, though I do think because of the fact that they're stays and they sit so low, or they sit so high, and they're basically ending at my waist, I'm able to kind of lean back into them more so than I would be able to in a corset that usually go down to your hips or kind of, you know, this kind of area. This is where the top of my hips are. So corsets tend to go a lot lower. My waist is just a little above where this is ending. And that's why I keep pushing it up. Straps probably would help. And I do have a spot in the front here where there's no boning that I could put eyelets for straps, but I don't really have any places in the back where there's no boning to do the same. And I really didn't want them anyway because I didn't want the feeling of it pulling down on my shoulders. It also kind of makes me want to hunch my shoulders up. I'm overheated because I've been moving around and talking so much. But I'm really happy with how they turned out. I did the binding properly, as you saw, which you unfold it, you sew one side down, you fold it over the edge, and you can either hand stitch on the back with a whip stitch or stitch in the ditch, which is what I did. And there's a couple of places, because the stitch in the ditch is from the front, so there's a couple of places where the stitches did go on top of the binding, and I was using that brown thread that I've been using, so you can see it a little bit, but I don't mind that it's a little seen in some places. Construction wise, it was all the same as last time. It just takes a really long time because it's a lot of boning channels. Every single one of the, like every square inch except for this triangle right here and this triangle right here, every single inch of this is covered in bones. And then I have to have bones for every channel. Luckily I was able to reuse a lot of them from the last pair, but I still had to cut some new ones because of the fact that there is that shape change across the back. I raised it higher. Before it had like little bumps for the straps, potential straps, but I raised it to be a little bit straight across the back and higher. And the same with the front, I also raised it higher. It sat a little bit lower before, but I think I brought it in too much on the sides. It's too much of a gentle curve. It looks more dramatic when it's flat. When it's on, it's too much of a gentle curve. It should probably come more up like that. But I didn't know. I might change it if I make another pair. I really don't want to make another pair. I probably won't. Other than the fact that it took me 2 weeks to make these with weekend breaks, that's about how long it took me to make the last pair. And I am really happy with how it turned out. I keep touching it because it's sturdy. I can't keep my hands off of it. But yes, I am very happy with how they turned out. I don't plan on making another pair ever. And if I do plan on making another pair, it won't be for a very long time. It takes so much time to make this, and I don't particularly enjoy having to spend 2 weeks on the same thing. So if I ever make another one, it's going to be a very long time from now. I'm just happy to finally have a staple piece that is in solid neutral colors, sort of, and it could be worn under something, it could be worn on top of something, and I'm just happy that I have a nicer version finally made. Thank you so much for watching. If you like crochet, sewing, or any other kinds of crafts, please consider a follow. I upload every Sunday, and I hope to see you there. Bye.